Lil Scrappy's journey has been a heartbreaking battle full of uncertainty, fear, and moments when hope seemed like a far-off dream. Only a few days ago, doctors cautioned his family that recovery wasn't guaranteed, leaving fans stunned and glued to their screens, waiting for updates on their beloved rapper's condition. His mother was devastated and had been begging for prayers, while close friends were afraid for the worst. The news sent shockwaves through the industry, leaving everyone wondering how this happened. Social media was flooded with messages of concern, rumors, and even whispers that Scrappy might never return to the life he once knew. However, now everything has changed in a dramatic and unexpected turn of events, with doctors finally giving the green light. Scrappy's condition is improving, and he's proving to be stronger than anyone imagined. What caused this amazing discovery, and more importantly, what does this mean for Scrappy's future? Prepare yourself because we're going to delve into the specifics of Scrappy's amazing comeback, the emotional responses from his family and fans, and the behind-the-scenes drama that nearly turned everything upside down. Little Scrappy fans had spent restless nights checking their feeds in the hopes of the grim updates, the heartfelt requests from his family, and there was a sense of despair, but now everything had turned upside down. The rapper, who had been fighting for his life, had suddenly shown signs of recovery. It all began late last night when a close family friend who had visited Scrappy in bed posted a mysterious message online saying, "Miracles happen when you least expect them." They continued to pray, and within minutes, people started to speculate that Scrappy was waking up and that the doctors had changed their assessment. Excitement was growing, but there were no official confirmations until early this morning. Then, after being silent for days, Scrappy's mother, Mama D, posted a video. Her eyes were red and her voice was shaking. But this time, it was out of relief. My baby is fighting. He's stronger than they thought," she said, barely holding back tears. The doctors had just informed us that Scrappy's had a. After days of despair, hope had returned, but behind the scenes, things were more complicated than they appeared. The doctors were hopeful but cautious, and Scrappy wasn't out of the woods yet. His journey back to full health would be anything but easy for Scrappy's loved ones. The internet exploded with messages of joy and disbelief from celebrities, fellow rappers, and fans. The tension in the hospital room had been thick, with silent prayers, hushed conversations, and the overwhelming fear of losing him forever. 2 nights ago, the family had almost given up on him because his condition had been getting worse, and some doctors thought his body might not respond to treatment. Bambi, Scrappy's estranged wife, had been going through a difficult time. Previously, she had been by his side, watching the monitors and whispering encouraging words even when he was unconscious. She reportedly told a friend, "I don't care about anything else. I just want him to be okay." Meanwhile, his mother, Mama D, had been a formidable force, fighting feverishly to get the best doctors, the best care, and the best prayers. At one point, she even got into a fight with hospital staff. The turning point occurred in the early hours of the morning when Scrappy, who had been unconscious for days, suddenly showed movement. Not much, just a slight twitch of his body. In response to her demands for more aggressive treatments, "You don't give up on my son. I don't care what the numbers say. He's a fighter," she had yelled at a doctor, according to an insider, and she wasn't wrong. Scrappy was fighting back in ways that surprised even the most seasoned medical professionals. Fingers, but it was enough for the doctors to interpret it as evidence that his body was finally responding. By midday, however, there had been even more progress. Scrappy had opened his eyes for a brief moment, and although he was still weak, he was conscious of his surroundings. A nurse who had been keeping a close eye on him described how he initially appeared confused, as if he was trying to figure out where he was. But then his eyes fell on his mother, and I swear there was recognition that the news. Family members flocked to his bedside like wildfire, tears streaming down their faces. His daughter, who had been too young to comprehend the gravity of the situation, finally got to see him. She held his hand and whispered, "Daddy, wake up." The doctors, who had been bracing the family for the worst, now provided a different message. "He's not safe, but there is hope. One of them stated that his vitals are stabilizing. Even though the news was encouraging, there was still a significant barrier that needed to be overcome before Scrappy could fully recover. His body was weak, and his road to recovery would be lengthy and uncertain. In the midst of all of this, tensions within his inner circle and family were starting to rise, and while everyone was celebrating Scrappy's progress, not everyone agreed on what should happen next. His medical team had a strict recovery strategy in mind, but some family members had different ideas. M, who had always had a significant impact on Scrappy's life, felt that his recovery should be focused on spirituality because it was a miracle and needed to be treated as such. She'd informed the family that she had already contacted a number of pastors and spiritual healers to warn them to be involved in the process, but Bambi wasn't amenable and wanted a purely medical approach. While Scrappy's close friends had their own worries, some of them thought that once he recovered, he intended to cut out certain people from his life who had only brought drama and negativity if he made it out of the hospital. "This isn't the time for experiments," she said. "He needs science, rehab, and professional care. He needs a fresh start, no more toxic energy," one of his longtime friends said. Then there was the question of Scrappy himself. He was barely conscious now, but as he began to regain his strength, he would have to make decisions about his future on his own. Would he listen to his mother, make amends with Bambi, or take a completely different route that no one saw coming? One thing was for sure though, this story was far from over at Scrappy's hospital. Despite the fact that his condition had improved and the doctors were now cautiously optimistic, the battle for control over his recovery was intensifying behind the scenes. His mother, Mama D, his estranged wife, Bambi, and his close friends all had disparate opinions about what was best for him, and as Scrappy gradually regained consciousness, he was going to wake up to a storm of drama that had been building in the early hours of the morning while he was away. Scrappy, who had been struggling to keep his eyes open the day before, suddenly found his voice. It was weak, barely above a whisper, but when he spoke, the whole room froze. Where was Bambi? The tension in the room skyrocketed. Mama D, who had been sitting by his side for hours, looked like she had just been slapped. Meanwhile, Bambi, who had been outside in the hallway, rushed in the moment she heard his voice. "I'm right here," she said, tears. "I'm here, Scrap, I'm here," she said, grabbing his hand and squeezing it tightly. His eyes fluttered open, and for the first time since his condition took a turn for the worse, he appeared fully aware of his surroundings. However, the moment was brief as everyone left. He mumbled, his voice hoarse, but his words were clear. "I need to talk to Bambi alone." A heavy silence descended upon the room, and Mama D's face darkened. He fought for him every day, refusing to give up, and now his first desire was to be alone with Bambi. "Scrappy baby, I believe we showed no mama," he interrupted, sounding a little stronger this time. Reluctantly, everyone shuffled out of the room, but not before Mama D gave Bambi a look that could kill. She didn't trust Bambi after everything that had happened between them, and she wasn't the only one who had worries before. With Scrappy in the hospital, his relationship with Bambi had been strained, with rumors of arguments, betrayals, and even possible infidelity circulating. Some sources said that Scrappy had been spotted with other women, while others suggested that Bambi had moved on. However, with Scrappy fighting for his life, none of that seemed to matter the moment she saw him weak and vulnerable. She realized that all of her anger and resentment had vanished, but did he feel the same way? Inside the hospital room, Scrappy took a deep breath, squirming a little from the pain. His body was weak, but his mind was sharper than ever. "I thought I was done," because he admitted that I thought I wouldn't wake up. "Don't say that," Bambi whispered, tightening her grip on his hand. Scrappy looked at her, saying, "You scared me, Scrap. You scared all of us." Scrappy's eyes were filled with something she couldn't quite read. "I don't know what's going to happen after this, but I need to know, are we done?" Bambi's breath caught in her throat. She had been asking herself this question for days before all of this, since she was sure their marriage was over, but now things felt different. I don't know, she said. I just know that I don't want to lose you. But before Scrappy could answer, the door flew open. When Bambi took charge of the situation, Mama D stormed back into the room and said, "Enough of this." She said, "Scrappy baby, you need rest, you don't need stress, and you definitely don't need to be dealing with this right now." Bambi stood up, fire in her eyes, saying, "Excuse me, I've been here just as much as you have. If anyone has a right to talk to him, it's me." Mama D laughed coldly. "Oh, now you care." Bambi clenched her fist before he became ill, but before she could respond, Scrappy moaned, "Can't you guys stop doing this right now?" Both women fell silent, but the animosity in the air was intense. Scrappy may have been recovering, but his family was on the edge of disintegration outside the room, and some of his close friends were joining Mama D because they thought Bambi was guilty. Was only present because of the attention Scrappy's condition had garnered. Others believed Mama D was being overbearing and refused to acknowledge that her son had a life of his own. And just when things were getting out of control, a surprise visitor arrived, someone no one had anticipated seeing. Shortly before the tension between Bambi and Mama D peaked, the hospital door opened and a face no one had anticipated, that of Erica Dixon, Scrappy's ex-partner and the mother, and practically lit up when she saw his first child. "This is the woman who truly has his back," she said loud enough for Bambi to hear. Bambi rolled her eyes, but Erica ignored them both and went straight past the drama to Scrappy's room. Scrappy looked up at her, his face flashing with surprise. "What are you doing here?" Erica asked, folding her arms. "I heard you were in bad shape, and I wasn't about to let you leave." He hadn't spoken to Erica in months, but he secretly wasn't shocked when she showed up. "Thank you," he said, just outside the room, while Bambi was furious. "Oh, so now she cares," she muttered under her breath, "Mama." Unlike some people, Erica's family has always been family, and the war lines were being drawn, and Scrappy was stuck. While his strength gradually returned, it became evident that this was only the beginning of a whole new battle. Scrappy lay in his hospital bed, his mind racing despite his exhaustion, his body still weak, but the chaos surrounding him. At that moment, however, none of that mattered because his mind was already racing with a new concern regarding his career. Would he ever be able to perform again? Could he return to making music? Was stronger than ever, and Erica's sudden arrival had only made matters worse by rekindling old wounds and tensions that had never really subsided. While Bambi was barely controlling her rage, Mama D was practically celebrating by pretending to be Erica with Scrappy's actual support system. And in the midst of it all, Scrappy found himself doubting everything. "Scrap, you don't have to worry about this right now," Erica said softly. Bambi, who had finally had enough of waiting outside, pulled up a chair next to him and ignored the stares from the hallway in order to concentrate on getting better. He rubbed his forehead and said, "I don't know what better looks like anymore." He wasn't just talking about his health. He was also talking about his life, marriage, family, and career, all of which felt like they were hanging by a thread. When Erica's eyes met Scrappy's, she raised an eyebrow without moving, but Mama D, who was stumbling in the doorway, smirked as if she was waiting for a fight by herself. Bambi added, "You want me to go?" Scrappy looked at Erica, hesitated, and then gave her a small nod, saying, "Yeah, let me handle this." Erica got up and walked past Bambi, giving her a knowing look as she went, but Bambi ignored it because she wasn't going to allow it either. She sat down on the edge of his bed and said, "Scrap, do you even want me here?" Her expression softened. "What kind of question is that? A real one?" she asked. "Because from the way your mom's been acting to the way Erica just walks in here like she still belongs in your life, I don't know where I fit in anymore." Scrappy exhaled slowly, detesting how complicated everything had become before his health scare with Bambi. Been about to call it quits, but now she was here showing him love when he needed it most. "I don't know what's going to happen with us," he said, "but I do know that you being here means something." Bambi bit her lip. But was that enough? Before Scrappy could respond, the door suddenly opened again. This time it was one of his closest friends, Diamond, who looked frantic and panted. "We have a problem," Scrappy moaned, and Diamond hesitated. Scrappy's eyes widened before she answered, her voice low. "The label." "What about them?" she asked. "They're talking about replacing you, Scrap. They're saying they don't know if you'll be able to bounce back, and they don't want to take any chances. They're already scouting for someone else." A heavy silence descended on the room. Bambi looked at Scrappy, panic flashing in her eyes. "They can't do that. You're not even out of the hospital yet. Then inside business, don't wait, Bambi." Need to know if Scrappy will be able to perform again, and they're not so sure right now. Scrappy clenched his jaw, saying, "I need to talk to them now because his music wasn't just his career, it was his identity." Diamond shook her head. "Not in your condition. You need to focus on getting stronger first." But Scrappy wasn't hearing it. If the label believed he was finished, he had to prove them wrong. He began to sit up, squirming from the pain, but Bambi put a hand on his chest right away, stopping him. "Scrap, no, you're not ready." "I don't have a choice," he said, adding that if I don't fight for my spot, they'll take it from me. Mama D, who had been listening, entered the room, her eyes burning. "Ain't nobody replacing my son," she said. "I'll call those fools myself if I have to." Bambi rolled her eyes, telling Mama D that this isn't something you can simply fix. It's a broken marriage, but that hasn't stopped you from trying, has it? Mama D shot back, and Scrappy moaned about how his head was pounding now, and that all of this fighting wasn't helping. Everyone fell silent as they watched him closely. He said in a strained voice, "I don't know what's going to happen with me and Bambi. I don't know if the label is going to stick with me, but I do know one thing. I haven't done it yet." "Scrap it, but do it the right way and get better." Scrappy first looked at her, then at his mother, and finally at Diamond. For the first time in weeks, he felt something he hadn't felt in weeks. He hoped that it wouldn't be easy, that there would still be challenges to overcome, and that people would be watching to see if he could make it through. But one thing was for sure, Scrappy wasn't giving up. However, the battle is far from over. Will Scrappy make a full comeback and prove everyone wrong? Will his music career survive the doubts? Will his relationships be able to move on without more drama? One thing is certain though, this story is far from over, and we'll be here to bring you every twist and turn. What do you think will happen next? Let us know in the comments. Here, and if you want to be informed when Scrappy's rehabilitation progresses, be sure to use the like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications.